What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I am the Crockneck, and I have an album review for you. Once again, this one is brought to us courtesy of Screaming Toilet. Again, fun site full of cool reviews on all sorts of pop culture things, movies, TV shows, music, toys, there's even podcasts and such. Definitely go check it out. There will be a link below in the description. So today I am reviewing the newest album from Goatblood, Apparition of Doomsday. This actually came out last year on the 27th of December, but didn't get here until much later, but still it was released a while ago. Again, we're kind of playing catch up here. This came out on Dunkelheit Production. I'm not screwing up the word production there, that's how it's spelled, and there's a K in there for whatever reason. This is a extraordinarily cavernous, blackened death metal band from Germany. Formed in 2011, this is their third full length, and there are only two members of this. And the frontman slash guitarist, bassist, also fronts the band Blasphemous Putrefaction, which is a gritty, cavernous death metal band from Germany that I also own a CD by. And these bands are decidedly similar. Also, a fun note, he goes by the name Satanic Death Vulva in both bands, I believe. So just stick with the name. That's pretty damn metal. So after we get past this intro called Exodus, which I think we're on a ship and Satan is barking orders at people and it's stormy, we get in the first track, Goat Order, and right away I really like the production on this. I have to admit, it is extra gritty. The guitar tone is very swampy, like it really reminds me a lot of Incantation, but it has a little bit of that Swedish death metal bite to it. Nasty sounding. The vocals are all very low gurgles. Periodically you get kind of a higher scream because both of them actually do vocals. I believe the guy playing the drums actually does just like periodic little screams here and there, and it's mainly just the frontman, Satanic Death Vulva. I just wanted to say that again. The vocals are appropriately drenched in reverb, and the riffs are definitely metal, but there's a punkness to them. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think on this album there might be 6 whole chords played on the entire thing. Now, granted, they're rearranged in different ways to try to break up the songs, but they don't really do the best job because a lot of this really just stays in one gear. And it isn't like, you know, a band like, you know, Cannibal Corpse where you think, oh yeah, well, I can get any album and it virtually sounds the same. This really sounds the same. Like, it is really hard to distinguish these tracks because a lot of the chords are repeated and the drum beats are very similar. In fact, periodically you'll get a death doom break, but most of the time it is just a blast beat that is very simple, very straightforward. In fact, there's really no flash to any of these drums, to be honest. It's that same thing, same guttural vocals, and that formula pretty much just carries throughout this entire album. It really just does not break stride. There's a couple moments where you hear some D-beat sections come in, but for the most part, you hear this same blast beat and the same rhythm essentially to these chord changes. It's da 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 da. Very repetitive. And granted, I like the production, I like the overall style. It's just very raw, like kind of caveman metal. It's like kind of taking like a band like Torture Rack, which is more underground. I don't think a lot of people really know who they are, but if you do, they're an awesome band. And then mixing that with a band like Profanatica, which is a very cavernous blackened death metal band, and they've been pretty much running that same sort of sound, except there's definitely more variance there. Honestly, a lot of what breaks up the tracks are the samples they use in terms of like movies or whatever audio field recording they found. The song Pork Puzzle, which is an interesting song title, appropriately begins with pig squeals on a farm, like a whole mess of them. And I believe the song is about pigs devouring people, essentially. Like, looking over the lyrics are very simple and, I don't know, kind of goofy. I think there's some sort of level of humor or self-aware humor to all this, just in terms of how simple the music is, and the lyrics kind of get weird, and I'm going to get into that later because there's one song in particular, I think the only notes I wrote were the lyrics because I was like, dude, what? But anyway, the samples are kind of odd because you get those pig samples or goats or, the sea. But on the song Exclusion Prevails, the only thing that really became memorable on there was they actually put in a sample from 300. So it was just kind of an interesting thing. Like, you threw in like this big budget movie sample, which I think it's not necessarily the This Is Sparta one, but it's one of the big speeches Leonidas gives. It's just kind of interesting that they throw a big budget movie sample into something that is fiercely underground and grimy. And I'm not sure if like there's a context with that one. It's really hard to tell because, again, not a lot of these songs really stand out. Now, I briefly touched on death doom breaks in the songs, and while I do like the fact that they're in there because it actually breaks up the monotony of that same blast beat, which, again, you will hear that all throughout this album, and it becomes very, very dull after a while. But the death doom breaks, unfortunately, are just like little teases, like little breaks in between, maybe just for the drummer to catch his breath. But they don't do much to really serve the song. They just seem like a moment that's just kind of thrown in there. Now, the one song I actually took away from this that I really did like was Miss Dead Body. Now, when I looked at the lyrics, it's, I don't know, about like an undead stripper or something. It's really hard to tell, but this one didn't really labor that blast beat as much. It actually opened up with a groovy intro. There was a pretty decent riff on there that actually carried it for the most part. It does go back on the cruise control blast beat, but it actually does bring back that groovier part. And it was actually more of a memorable song. I would have liked to have heard more of this. Now, again, that's another issue on here, is this album is way too long for what they're going for. It's over 45 minutes long. And if you're just doing something that is very simple, very repetitive, maybe shorten the songs a bit. Like, I honestly think there's more nuance in grindcore and power violence songs. There's a little bit more progression and at least some variety, just albeit condensed and even more violent. Nothing much on here really stood out to me. Some goofy song titles and lyrics. I have to bring up Necro Horny, and I'm going to read these lyrics for you just because they stuck with me. And this is just one particular line. Gray tongue will lick your anus. This mummy had a boner. Fountains of icy squirt. Again, this just made me think, is this like kind of a deliberately kind of dumbed down project, like a joke or something like that? Because if it is, it's a hell of a troll. But if this is serious, I just don't know what's going on here. The song that followed it was called Predator of Horns, and at that point I was just making jokes about it. Like I said, ska bands beware, because these guys are coming after you. I think my other notes were, I swear to God, this album is 4 songs on a loop. And again, there are small parts on here I like, but this is just the most repetitive thing I think I've listened to this year. And it isn't great repetition. It's repetition of some very dull riffs, that same blast beat, and then periodic samples of stuff. Like, I get wanting to go for something absolutely super heavy and very just gritty and dirty sounding, but deliver something with a hook. Like, I just can't get into any of this. So overall, I'm gonna give this 2 stars. I love the production on here. I think the production's awesome. I just need more songs, not just like little teased bits of songs. Like, bring back more of those death doom breaks and actually kind of carry on with them. Stop using that blast beat, for the love of God or Satan or whatever the hell you want. Just stop. It really gets old. Like, break it up a little bit. I don't understand if this is like a joke band or if this is a serious band. I think just going by the lyrics, it's got to be a little bit of a joke band, and if it is, that's cool. If not, man, this is definitely not something I would return to. But again, I recommend you guys check it out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. I might just be being a picky shit about this, but this was kind of a rough one to get through. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. Catch you guys later.